Well, hey, everybody. Going live here tonight. It's a Friday night live, and it's been quite a while since I had the opportunity to do one of these with you, too. And we've been working on getting some new studio set up here. So we're trying out a few things different tonight. There might be a little bit of lag on the video. You might notice that a little bit tonight, but hopefully we'll have that corrected by our next live stream. But welcome, everybody, to Friday Night Live. Again, I'm going to say if you would please like and share this broadcast, I'd appreciate it. And also, if you haven't subscribe to my new YouTube channel. It will be available in the comments section right after this live is finished. But I'd love to help me boost my subscribers on there, and that you continue to follow this content. And so tonight we're going to get into quite a few different things. Of course, in Canada, we are very nearly edging the federal election, and so there's much to talk about in that area. And so I am going to get to that, but I want to get to a few other things here as we start that I like to just talk about some things that I find interesting, and not just random things, but they're always things that actually I think could be somehow tied to things that are happening in the last days, especially when they're peculiar, because, there's going to be a lot of deceptions happen in the last days. That's what the Bible tells us about, and a lot of strange happenings. So there's been a lot of weird things happening. And so some of the things that are recent, and this one's a couple weeks old now, but I found this very fascinating. And that's that somebody did some kind of sonar radar from outer space satellites to see what was beneath the pyramid of Giza, the main pyramid of Giza. They found, according to them, this is not verified, but the company that did this work seems to be quite confident in their findings, that under the pyramid of Giza is massive structures that go down like a mile into the earth, these huge columns, and that underneath the columns are also these square rooms, and some to an underground city. And so if you didn't know, there is so many things that are Giza that we don't know for sure who built men. Some people wonder how could men have possibly did this when we're talking about stones that weighed tons and that came from miles and miles away, and they came from a completely different location, and the technology that they were supposed to have cut these with was a hammer and chisel, but they say have to use lasers to cut the stones the way that they were cut. And so there's many other things about them, how they're positioned, how they're built so true north, the many mysteries surrounding them. And so this new one came up, and I found this interesting. So let's listen to a clip here that I picked out, and
They
maybe you'll
took
find
this
this interesting
space-based
as well.
technology and they pointed it to the pyramids to see what was at the base of the pyramids. And not only did they find things at the base of the pyramids, they found things under the Great Pyramids of Giza that, if it's real, it just changes absolutely everything. Everything. So they are using synthetic aperture radar, SAR, and it can see through the dirt and stone, and it bounces signals off of things underground and listens for tiny vibrations. What they found is huge hidden structures deep beneath the pyramid. Now, let me give you what they think they found. 5 huge rooms or buildings near the pyramid's base, underground, linked by paths with slanted roofs and layers inside of the pyramids, and then tunnels that go down and connect the pyramids. Okay. Then they found 8 really large tube-like holes. They're like wells that go down, and they're kind of deep. They're 600 meters deep. The hole, there's 5 of them. That's half a mile. 600 meters deep.
Six. I've heard other estimates as well that were even more. And Rachel is telling me that the video is very laggy. Is it all of the videos, or is it just me? I don't know. I'll do my best just to keep on going here. Anyway, as he talked about of what that's supposed to look like as well. Now, some speculate that these spring-like columns, where there's springs around the columns, are actually there was a scientist by the name of something Tesla, no relation to Elon Musk that I'm aware of, that had created this power source using something. One of the things could have been that the pyramids were actually an ancient power plant, and that they had some sort of technology. And so, my video is apparently still very bad. Is it bad enough that it's hard to watch, or is it watchable? I got some good stuff, but I might have to come back to you tomorrow here if we're having too many technical problems. Unfortunately, we were one piece short of our new studio setup. My wife worked very hard all day trying to get this setup in place. She says it's watchable, so I hope so. Okay. The next thing I want to go to, as if there hasn't been enough crazy things going on in the world with AI and with uh, all that's going on in the political scale of things, and then also everything that's happening in robotics and UAPs. There's so much going on. What else could possibly happen or take place that would be strange? And enters the dire wolf.
Cute. Oh my gosh, I want one.
Yeah, no, you don't.
No, I want one.
No, you really
Look how
don't.
cute they are. Oh my gosh, I want one.
Oh, they're so cute, aren't they?
And they're a little loud. Forget it. I'm bringing it back to the pound.
You want to get up in the middle of the night and hear, oh, no, no. So they retrieved the DNA from fossils of dire wolves 13,000 years ago. They were over. Then they discovered additional DNA, and they edited 20 genes of gray wolves and then put the dire wolf in the gray wolf, and we now have the new and improved dire wolf.
The new and improved dire wolf. So yeah, those are the dire wolf puppies there that they have brought back an extinct species using fossils and changing genes and altering these things in gray wolves, that they have brought back this extinct species from thousands of years ago, the dire wolf. And so these things are just very fascinating to me, because who would have thought that all of a sudden we're about to enter Jurassic Park? And if you remember the movie, that pretty well how they had extracted the DNA from mosquitoes, it was in the movie. But that's just amazing to me, and so very crazy when you consider everything else that is going on in the world, that you have all of these changes that are going to be happening so fast over the next 5 to 10. And now they say next to come is the woolly mammoth, that the woolly mammoth could literally be making a comeback. Crazy. Like, what a time to be alive, that some of these things are actually happening. And now here's the video I came across too, that is Elon Musk and Ted Cruz talking with robotics and artificial intelligence. And what is the likelihood that the humans and take over the world, and how far away are we from that?
How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely, maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
So soon, like you see a world where that's possible.
Yeah, but I mean, you could look at it like the glass is 80 to 90% full, meaning like 80% likely will have extreme prosperity for all.
Now, I guess my view, we're in a race to win AI. We're in a race with China. And my view is, if they're going to be killer robots, I'd rather they be American killer robots than Chinese. How likely Are we winning right now? Is America winning right now? And how likely is America to win the race for AI vis-a-vis China or anyone else?
For the next few years, I think America is likely to win. Then it will be a function of who controls the AI chip fabrication. The factories that make the AI chips, who controls them?
All right, so don't worry, just a 10 to 20% chance that robots might take out all of humanity. But he's a type of guy that sees the glasses half full, so don't worry about it. Anyway, that's he's giving you a picture from a guy that is heavily invested, one of the architects of much of this technology, and he's saying these are some of the things you're going to see in 5 to 10 years, with most miles being driven by driverless cars and billions of humanoid robots in the world. That was an interesting interview. One of the other questions he asked him is why robots look like the robots from iRobot, and so they just kind of carried on with some of those topics. But that was interesting. Let's get a little bit here to politics and talk a little bit about the Canadian election. So we've just very recently moved on from this guy. Some of you might remember him. Yes, wasn't that a wild almost 10 years? Justin Trudeau is no longer the prime minister, thank God. That was uh, a very grueling time for our nation. But here we are with a new prime minister that is an unelected prime minister. And I really myself do not like the way that our system works like that. I think that an election should have been called immediately. It should be a minister resigns. That is the very next step. But instead, the Liberals have had their opportunity to prorogue government, so there was no parliament being held, and then put in a new face where they can have their new prime minister kind of grandstand and position himself as the face of the nation, and it gives you a huge political edge when you're able to do that. Some people thought they might do that with Kamala Harris there at the end with Joe Biden. I was a little bit surprised they didn't, but maybe Joe Biden was unwilling to go along with that, as it seemed he wasn't too happy with being removed from the nomination at all. And so maybe that was a story there. But now all Carney guy, and while he was running as of the Liberal Party, right away it became clear and obvious to me that this guy was going to be the guy that was going to win it, not because he was the greatest candidate or anything. I mean, he might have been out of the ones that they chose. They had a lot of candidates, and it's pretty liberal party, and so really just triggered my thinking on it. Though his ads were like all I was seeing. I wasn't seeing the ads for anyone else. It was clear that he had some major financial backing, and I know he's a rich man himself, and so he was the general of the Bank of Canada, and then from I think 13 to 19 or 2020, something like that. He's a very wealthy individual, and people have talked about how he has money in offshore accounts and all of these things, and how he might be not paying taxes in Canada. I don't know for sure about all of that, but it is a doubt that he himself was rich, but I funding his own campaign. So this guy came in kind of an unknown to a lot of us anyway. I know some people were familiar with him from before, but he came in as an unknown, and then all of here to me, this guy's going to win it because he has all this backing. The media's with him, and this guy is a puppet. This guy is the one that they're putting forward to come in and take the reins from Trudeau and continue to move us trajectory that we've been on for the last 9 to 10 years. And so to me, that trajectory is scary. That still are not of that mind, and that boggles my mind. I don't know how anybody could look over the last years been led well We have watched such our economy, the decline of our economy. We've watched such problems rise in our culture, so much hate, and we've seen the trans agendas pushed so hard onto not just adults, but so and seen the MAID program that live under the Liberal Party, where so many Canadians are being determined healthcare system, and for some simple things as well, not that I want to say simple, but even life-threatening diseases or illnesses, but that are mental health. That's simple, but not that one should have to have their life those reasons at all. And I how much that is happening just in our region, pastor. And I can imagine how much funeral directors are seeing it, how much doctors are seeing it. It's really crazy. So there's been an agenda of death. I'm going to kind of come from a little bit tonight as I talk about this premise. Can Christians vote liberal? Can a Christian vote? Just rephrase that question a little and say, can a Christian make stupid decisions? And if a question like that, then the answer would be yes. Yes, Christians can do stupid things. And it would be a stupid thing, especially after seeing what has been the last 10 years. And it's the same party, folks. Mark Carney but it's the same party. It's the different face, you know what I'm saying? And this is just not the direction that our country continue to go. And so it bothers me when that are still now. There might have been a time in Canada where if you a Christian, maybe you could have voted on different sides of the lines, and you would have found maybe Christians on both sides of the line, those that were the MPs and the representatives. There has become this huge contrast. It's happened in the States too, where one went extremely left, embracing things like abortion, not just the normal, which I hate, has been presented to us as normal, but where it was just before something that was more quiet, very abnormal, but where now it's praised, and now it's something that is championed. Abortion is championed, and so the Liberal Party, the Democrats, they put themselves on that side of things, championing these things. They become trans and major pushers and supporters, not supporters, but pushers and praisers of the LGBTQ community, about somebody getting to choose the kind of life they want to live. But it's about the kind of to people, forced into people's faces, being forced in our education system. And so this is seen in the last 10 years that has come from the liberals. And I will still say that the conservative side in Canada needs a lot of growth. But if you were to be an MP in the Liberal Party, and I would assume the NDP is the same, and the leader of the NDP, I don't even want to get started on that guy. The things he posts and stuff, a comic strip or something. It's like how can you even, let alone leading a party in Canada? Some of the rhetoric that he says, that if he was prime minister, it would be a very scary. But anyway, so I put those guys in the same ballpark. I'm sure it's the same, and I know that it even be a member representing the Liberal Party and be pro-life. And in the conservative, for sure, that there are some people in the party that are pro-life. To me, deal. Pro-life to me, being an advocate of life, be at the very top of human agenda, but Christian agenda. God is a giver of life. All life is sacred. And the world has tried to paint it as better names such as women's rights or health care, things like that. But at the end of the day, it's still child abortion. Like, well, a woman gets to choose with her own body, but it's not her own body, of her body. It's a life inside the woman. That is one of the beautiful things of being a woman, is that a woman has that gift. And I've watched my wife and others who have carried a baby in their womb, then brought that baby forward. The beauty is so precious to them. And so to be able to minimize that and say, that it's the same thing, or it's just, my body, my choice, but it's not your body. It's this, just the other night in our Bible study from a comedian that I heard, he said, he was saying, I'm pro-choice, but I'll tell you this, that if you have and it's almost done, throw it across the floor. I don't care what you say. I just killed your cake. And so he went on to say, pull that thing out of the womb and you just killed a baby. And no, I know people don't want to hear that today, but be talked about. Now, I am disappointed in Day, who I had seen come out and say that there will be no laws passed if he was to be a prime minister. There's no in Canada at all around. And so even people that believe in abortion, I would think would be there somewhere. Not that you should be able to terminate your baby for sex selectiveness because you wanted a boy, now you're going to have a girl, or just because you changed your mind at the very last minute, all of these things. And so I was disappointed to hear that, but I am saying that when I look to vote as a Christian, I'm looking for things that kingdom values. Now, life is a huge one of those. I see the trans been being pushed on our society as a robber of identity, and something that is trying to rob traditional family. The attacks that have come from that side of the aisle. And so even though Pierre Poilievre is not the perfect, I would choose, and is without a doubt the best candidate to win. Now, I shared with my church on Wednesday night that in the last federal election, I voted PPC because I was so upset with the Conservative Party, with the way that they had handled 2020 and all of the things surrounding the pandemic. I was disgusted with them, and I wanted to vote, and for whatever it was worth, or what I wanted, just to vote my conscience. And so I felt that was the right direction for me. And maybe that's some people today, and where you're kind of an election, and despite his faults, and that's a Pierre Poilievre, I will say that he is a strong leader. He's highly intelligent, advocate for freedom of speech, at least much more than anybody else on the other side of that aisle. And I believe that this would be without the best choice that could get in. We can talk about, I am talking about a big negative that I hope gets addressed. And I wish he wouldn't have said that. I think it would have probably been silly if he didn't say that. But that's just where I pray for him, because he's at second time I've seen it where he seems to let media or the pushback from liberals kind of come into agreement with someone when he does nothing, I don't think, but alienate some of his base. No way do I think there was all of a sudden going to say, okay, now I'll vote for Pierre. No, I don't think so anyway. Maybe there is, but I don't think so. Down Pierre, but just in being fair, I'm going to call things that are important to me. I know that in the Conservative Party, however, is people that are representatives that are pro-life, and you can't say that for the Liberal Party. So I would say, how can you, in these kinds of ideologies, and come into agreement with the party of death? It makes no sense. Maybe years ago when our parties weren't really that different and there was varying, but those days are long gone. And if you're still in that old way of thinking, you need to snap out of it. Quick wake up call to the kind of reality that we're living in today, because we're living in times where freedom of speech, so much so now, it's funny because people backwards sometimes, and I've seen even some people saying that that X or Twitter is an attack against freedom of speech, which is what it's the very opposite. Elon Musk did something huge for freedom of speech, so than anybody else I can think of in recent years, when actually made it a free platform, which has spurned of media like Facebook to making things freer for speech and less censorship. But people today, they get things very backwards. They call good evil, they call evil good, and the Bible told us that's what things would be like. And we're living in those days where people call good things evil and evil good. And so speech to me is probably the biggest thing, because I care about abortion and pro-life. But you can't even say that that's wrong anymore. You can't even challenge thinking. This is for freedom of speech, not only on social media, but for our churches, politics, that our ideas can come forth, and we don't feel that we are threatened to share Canada. We've seen some really scary bills that have been proposed, and maybe some that have been passed, that could in Canada. And one we've been talking about that could under a Liberal Party is taking charitable status away from churches, to remove charitable status from anybody that does not support abortion. Now, do you know what churches? So many churches would close up across our. They say they have to pay dues now, pay the whatever the property worth, or any money that they have, they'd have to pay gain if some of these bills were to go through, which could immediately close down churches. Now, I've watched how the enemy has tried to put his hands into Canada these last. Mark Carney, through ideology and such things with globalism as environmental, under the disguise of environmental. Let's see here. I'll go show you something. Google, this is one thing that you can pull up. He had initially supported the carbon tax, which obviously he made a huge political move there to get rid of the carbon tax, because it was Pierre's really main platform, which it was a good platform to run. A strong political move there to scrap the tax and that out. But has anybody really called that somebody who once supported that and all of a sudden is going to, just continue on that trend? Needs to move forward economically. Everybody's so up in arms about the things that Trump is doing. We need to be concerned about Canada. We need to, yes, the tariffs aren't good. Tariffs are hurting Canada. And I'm a Trump guy. And I don't like the things that Trump is hurting Canada. It might make sense as a America first. I need somebody who will think Canada first. Now, I do believe in a healthy environment, but a lot of the things that go on under that guise are actually just power grabs by government and on top of that. And so Mark Carney was also of the United Nations for environmental somehow. And now, like, this is just apparently he bring Canada back to economic success when he's also against fossil fuels, and we're gonna be interdependent without the United States. Don't have the infrastructure to sell our oils and our gases to other countries like we need. But apparently, Carney is promising economic advancement for Canada, opposing pipelines and these things that can make actually Canada independently strong. And so I wanted to present to you today that you need to get out this time, not because they are the best party, or well, they are the best party available. Now I'm going to say, see, that's your conscience. You know, I can understand that. I'm wrong as a Christian to do that. Heritage Party. I do think it's wrong. Wrong. So you're a Christian. I'm sorry. I don't get it at all. But we have to consider this, that there's only two parties that are actually competing parties here, and that is liberal and conservative. And this election is so pivotal that I don't think you want to, waste your do the things that matter. Get in touch with your local candidate, find out the things that they believe, continue to challenge. Let's get out and vote for Canada. Let's see Canada continue to be glorious, strong, and free. God, keep our land glorious and free. God bless everybody tonight. If you don't know Jesus, pray this prayer with me tonight. Heart, forgive me for my sins. I make you the Lord of my life. I believe that you died, you were buried, and you rose again from the dead, and I give you invitation to live in me. God bless you tonight.